Welcome to the NorthLakes podcast. I'm today's host, Jeremy Oswald. Today, registered dietitian Rebecca Crumb-Johnson returns to talk about sugar addiction. Rebecca provides guidance on diets and lifestyle so that people are empowered to take control of their wellness through healthy adjustments at home. You can learn more about her and what she does at our website, nlccwi.org. Let's hear what she has to say about sugar addiction. This is going to be sweet. Back again. How are you?
I'm good, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you again.
Mm-hmm.
What's been going on?
Getting busier here at NorthLakes, doing more stuff, trying not to fall on the ice.
Yeah, right.
That's my main goal each day right now, is not to fall down.
Walk like a penguin.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I wanted to talk to you today about, and I wasn't sure how to phrase this. I think we talked a little bit, like it started out like food addiction, but I think it's more specifically we want to talk about sugar addiction.
Yeah, so we talked about just narrowing it to that because food addiction's a much broader subject. So just talking about sugar. And you had a question about, is there a better way to phrase it? I think, sugar addiction or something more boring like just eating too much sugar.
Sucrose enhanced right?
Foods.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Or just it isn't just sucrose. It's like all of the different sugars that can be involved.
That's what I get for opening my mouth. Well, great. So sugar addiction, I'm kind of completely in the dark about this. I mean, how are people addicted to sugar and why is it bad?
So we're just really starting to study what we would call sugar addiction, particularly in people. There's been a lot of animal studies that we learned from, but doesn't necessarily, transfer to humans. So there's still some question if sugar is a true addiction or if it's behavioral. I have a feeling it's going to come out a little bit of both. And when we talk about addictions, when we're looking at drug addiction and alcohol addiction, a lot of it has to do with the increased dopamine that addictive things do. And sugar increases your dopamine. Which
I think I've got a couple other podcasts under my belt about this. Dopamine's kind of like it's a pleasure center. It's like it gives you pleasure.
Right.
So you're always kind of seeking that out.
So you seek it out, you get used to it, and it's like, okay, then that dopamine goes down and it's like, I need more. And where the behavioral part can come in is like for any of us, whether it's food or brushing your teeth or whatever, it's like, what did you learn at home? And so if you are raised in a situation where sugar is like a very big part of your diet, that can be partially behavioral. I'm used to having this substance. Or it can be you become somewhat addicted to it.
And it's everywhere.
Everywhere. And so, we don't want to just think of sugar as where we grab the sugar off the table and spoon it on our cereal. We're talking about what's in food. So basically, the more processed your diet is, the more sugar you're going to get. So if we're looking at in the United States, where the majority of our sugar comes is from what we're drinking. So about 47% of all added sugars in the American diet is coming from, sodas, fruit drinks, energy drinks, and more coffee and tea drinks, because some of these coffee drinks are basically coffee milkshakes.
Like a caramel mocha.
Yeah, right.
It's just like...
yeah, they're really high in sugar. Mm-hmm. So, when I'm talking to people about sugar or just empty calories, that's the first thing I always say, what are you drinking? Because it's a very efficient way to get a lot of sugar. So...
That's kind of the like people that they're addicted to that. Like it's like I need my coffee, but it's like has this in it or.
Yeah, right. And so, let's say you're starting your day off of hitting the coffee shop, and you're getting like a mocha latte, whatever. There's so many different drinks, and then you're grabbing a donut or a scone, mm-hmm. And you're starting your day with this big sugar rush.
What? So, here's a softball. Why is that bad? Like, what's like so what?
So you want to look at it a few different ways. Is totally empty calories. It's that trade-off of you're getting these calories and getting very little nutrition.
So it's giving you kind of a little bit of boost, but compared to like, let's say, like a handful of peanuts or peanut butter,
or if you had like
there's something that's going to last a little bit longer for you.
Right, or let's say you had like the same calories in eggs and fruit for breakfast and a whole grain piece of toast. That's going to give you, good nutrition. In the same time as giving you those same amount of calories. And it's probably going to be it's probably going to be less calories even if you ate that amount of food. So that's part of it. And then we're finding more and more that high sugar diets lead to more chronic diseases. So we're looking at even things like liver disease, kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. I think we think of diabetes right away when we hear sugar. Excuse me, but we're really identifying it with all these other chronic diseases. And actually the one I kind of personally find really interesting is the cardiovascular disease, because we've been told fat, is what affects it. But now that they're doing more research, they're saying these really high sugar diets are causing a lot of inflammation. And that's one of the reasons we get heart disease.
Oh, good. I don't mean no good. I mean,
you're right.
Just another
thing.
Not something. Yeah, but I guess you're right. I was like diabetes would what I would go to, but like, yeah, the heart, that's more like not taking care of yourself.
Right. Yeah. It's just like, so we're, just everything I mentioned is most of our major organs. It even too much sugar can kind of affect how good your skin looks. Not exactly acne, but just, how good our skin is looking. And
what about, I've done it, like maybe, you kind of like you have that rush and then you're kind of coming down. It's not good for your head either. Like, it's not like, that's because then you're kind of down in the dumps and.
Right. You're having, kind of that, up and down, kind of like the stock market going up and down. And, if you think of that line, it's like the sugar rush and then the crash. And then, and then when we're talking about the dopamine thing is you want to keep that going.
Who doesn't like to feel good?
No. Yeah.
But everybody likes that. Like, this makes me feel good, so that's why I'm going to do it.
Yeah. But what's interesting, when I talk to people, I actually just talked to somebody today who she's made a huge effort to really take sugar out of her diet. And now when she does it and has just a piece of cake, it's a birthday party, she has something, it doesn't make her feel very good. Mm-hmm. So she finds that it really makes a difference now that she's gotten away from it. And she's been doing this for almost a year. Mm-hmm. So it's not just, a month ago, but she's finding, gosh, what did I get out of this?
Right.
So
how do people maybe typically get into a sugar infested diet? I just made that up. But like
sugar infestation.
Yes.
Infestation. Again, there's like a very different ways. Like I have a particular friend I can think of, and she said growing up, they had dessert after every meal, including breakfast. Mm-hmm. And so it was like you had breakfast and you had a couple cookies and, and dessert was always a part of the meal. So, so you can have that, that it's just incorporated. And she grew up in an era where we didn't have so many sugary beverages. Hers was more like the baked good stuff. But now I'm going to pick on sugary beverages a lot.
Yeah, no, okay.
Because they, because like when I walk into Quick Trip, I kind of want to have a heart attack because there's just like this whole wall of sugary beverages.
Well, they know what people want.
I know, and I'm not blaming Quick Trip. Yeah. You see it in the grocery store. It's just that it's so like really visual there. Mm-hmm. And they also offer. I don't want to get sued by Quick Trip. Yeah. They offer alternatives. But, there's so much. And then, advertising that, Mountain Dew is cool, and you need energy drinks. You have to have Gatorade if you do any activity. It's
that. Like, I was gonna, I don't know if you want, like, but that's what I wondered. Like, hey, I just played soccer. I'm gonna have a Gatorade. I deserve it, right?
Right.
Because I need to get like whatever back in.
Yeah, and if you just had water and an orange, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
It's to hydrate, you need water, and then if you have to work really, really hard to need electrolytes.
Sorry.
But it's got to be like really hot. You've really sweat. You've really killed it, And so we've been really, like I said, with advertisements and peer pressure, that's been really pushed into our consciousness. Got it.
So how are you able to help people? I'll back up just a little bit. When would somebody, is it kind of an isolated condition like, wow, I'm really addicted to sugar, I should go see a doctor? Or is it kind of more like how do you interface with that? Like when a patient might be eating too much sugar?
I think there's a lot of awareness that we're not supposed to have so much sugar. I think that's, I was looking at some statistics, like American Heart Association has a lot about sugar, which is interesting because of the cardiovascular, and they, some of their statistics show 8 out of 10 people are aware that they should decrease their sugar. So I think a lot of people do it on their own, and they're trying to do it. You wouldn't need like a doctor's supervision, most likely. The only place I could see that is if you do have diabetes and you're on medications that make your blood sugars go down, and then all of a sudden you strip yourself of sugar, that could be a problem.
Sure.
If we're just talking about average Joe, you could probably do it on your own. But everybody's a little bit different. I find some people, they're just like, I'm going to go cold turkey. I am cutting sugar out of my diet. That's it. That's how I'm doing it. And usually within about 10 to 14 days, it's not like you're going to go through withdrawal, but you're going to have cravings.
Like any other addiction.
Right. You're just going to be, there's not going to be like with other withdrawals, you're not going to have that kind of thing. But you're going to be maybe a little crabby and you're going to want it. And some of it is that behavioral thing of it's 2:00 in the afternoon and I usually have my candy bar, so you're going to have that. Or some of it is just going to, as your blood sugars regulate differently, you're going to feel a little differently. With other people, it could be just deciding, okay, in my coffee, I have 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm going to do 1. I'm going to do half of 1. And every few days, just
kind of wean yourself
off. Because the sugar reminds me a lot of the salt thing. Like when people are cutting back salt, food tastes really flat. And then when they get to the point where they're away from it, they're fine. Your taste buds adjust. And that's also what we're looking with sugar is your taste buds are adjusted to a lot of sweet. So when you're cutting it back, food's going to taste like blah, so just, for example, for me, I, used to always eat milk chocolate. Now I eat very, very dark chocolate. And if I have milk chocolate, I'm like, blah. Yeah. And I'm not putting people down for liking milk chocolate. It's just I've gotten adjusted to something that's way less sweet. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm used to now. So, but I didn't make that adjustment overnight. I just started getting a little bit darker chocolate as I went along. So,
dug a little deeper.
I dug a little deeper.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so and that's kind of the advice that you give folks.
Yeah,
come see you and
yeah. When I talk to people, there's, everybody's personalities are different, and you're going to get those people that are there like, I'm done. I'm not eating sugar anymore. Mm-hmm. And so you go with it, and other people are kind of frightened, like, because you're taking something away that they're used to. So you want to be more gentle and say, well, again, instead of that king size candy bar in the afternoon, can you do the regular size, or can you do a fun sized, look at decreasing amounts.
Right. And are there foods that you kind of suggest to kind of replace them?
Fruit is a natural sweet food.
So what's the difference between that? There's sugar in fruit.
Right. There's
What's
fructose.
the difference between that sugar and the sugar in a candy bar?
Well, one thing you have to remember, I'm talking a lot about added sugar in food. So when you have fruit, it's the whole package. Somebody didn't come with a needle and push sugar
into my pear.
Yeah, into your pear.
Right.
It could happen, but
Sure.
They wouldn't do that. Where I'm talking about, when you're having a Coke, the Coke company is going to they're going to pour all this high fructose corn syrup or whatever sugar they use into that product. Not in label reading, if you look on a label, it'll tell you what the added sugar is in that food. And so you look under the carbohydrates and it'll say added sugar, and that's the actual sugar added that the manufacturer put into the food.
Right. Is there a product that you were really surprised, wow, they put sugar in this? Or are you surprised by nothing anymore?
I'm still surprised every
Yeah.
time I look at a label. Ketchup always kind of surprises me.
Right? Peanut butter?
Yeah, depending on the peanut butter.
Yep,
Peanut butter's not... I think peanut butter has more sugar than some people think. We kind of pick on it, but it kind of depends on the peanut butter. Ketchup kind of surprised me. Some of the spaghetti sauces do a little bit. It always shocks me with drinks how much... Because they use a special process to get more sugar into the drink. Because if you and I put the amount of sugar, if we took water and put 19 teaspoons of sugar into water, which is how much is in a Mountain Dew, and we just shook it, it wouldn't dissolve.
Right?
So, I don't know what the process is called, but they actually do a process to make it.
Wow, that much more concentrated.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because we would have trouble doing that at home.
Huh. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's, there's a conscious effort out there of we want as much.
It's becoming a syrup. They're doing a syrup, because, syrup is a more concentrated sweet.
So why? I know you're not a soda manufacturer or anything.
Yeah.
But
I think, because it is addictive, they put a lot of salt and fat and sugar in processed foods because it tastes good and it makes you want. I shouldn't say it tastes good. It makes you want to eat more.
Mm-hmm. It delivers that dopamine.
Right. It delivers that dopamine, and it's I want more. And especially high fructose corn syrup. A lot of what happened is when high fructose corn syrup came out, and that's a really cheap product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cane sugar is much more expensive, or even beet sugar is more expensive. Mm-hmm. So it's super cheap, so you could put it in more stuff because it's a cheap ingredient.
Yeah, and people are buying it.
And people are buying it
and using it.
Yeah, it's because I'm always saying the manufacturers are not your friends. They're there to sell a product and make money. That's what they're there for.
Yeah,
good, bad, or otherwise, that's their purpose.
If everybody was just buying pears, they'd be selling pears.
Right.
So
yeah.
Right.
So, that's kind of where some of that, it's we're giving people what they desire.
Right. And a few years ago, there was that sodas, large size sodas. I think it was in New York State or city.
Oh, yeah. They put an extra tax on them.
Or something.
Yeah.
And man, people just freaked out. They're what do you mean? I need this.
Yeah. They did a luxury tax. And, and that's the other thing, too, is a large, I'm in my 50s. a large soda back when I was a kid was much smaller than a large soda now. Mm-hmm. And so just the amounts have gotten bigger and bigger. And, we've talked about portion sizes before, but it's, that portion is just getting so large.
And cheaper. Or maybe not cheaper, but it sure isn't expensive.
Well, it's kind of crazy when soda's cheaper than water.
Right.
If you buy bottled water, it's often more expensive than a soda. So it's it's very twisted when you're looking at price. And it's so easy to get, if you stop at a Wayside Rest, you can pick up a soda. If you, go to Walgreens, if you go to anywhere.
I mean, I'm not trying to say I'm like some righteous person, mm-hmm. That's not something that I turn to, but a lot of people do. And that's kind of their thing. And, right. Whatever.
Right. If you're, going down the freeway and it's getting late and you're getting tired and you pull in the Wayside Rest and get something with caffeine in it.
Yeah.
Most likely it's going to be a high sugar drink.
Mm-hmm. And so what, as people are listening to this and maybe they're, I'd like to think maybe they're like, hey, how much sugar do I, and they're kind of evaluating it. What kind of advice would you give to someone, like if they're kind of trying to, check their consumption and maybe do something about it? So
if you're looking, at some goals, so if we look at the World Health Organization, their recommendation is less than... Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. You're
Sorry.
just,
we'll delete that.
I'm glad you cracked yourself up. So the World Health Organization, their recommendation is less than 25 grams of sugar per day. So 1 teaspoon of sugar has 4 grams. So we're looking at 6 to 7 teaspoons per day. If you look at what the American Heart Association recommends, it's women are less than 6 teaspoons a day, which is 24 grams, and men is 9, which is 36 grams. But also keeping in mind, that's not just the sugar like you would put in the sugar bowl and put on your food. That's also reading labels and looking at how much sugar is in the food. Like
getting back to like the ketchup and the spaghetti, like it seems to be working its way into a lot of places. And I'm guessing it's because it's kind of an inexpensive product. It gives people, there's a taste to it.
Well, yeah, there's a taste. We, human beings like sweet. And it actually, sweet and bitter are one of the reasons we're still here, because if something was bitter, it was probably poisonous, mm-hmm. And we shouldn't eat it. And if it was sweet, that was probably a safe food to eat, mm-hmm. So there's a reason we like it.
Or deep down.
Uh-huh. I mean, if we look in just through time, that was a good sign that was something safe for you to eat.
Mm-hmm. So somebody could, if they are, like, hey, am I eating too much? They could kind of look to those regulations to maybe as a guide moving forward.
Right.
And what does somebody do? Like, what is that? You kind of touched on this a little bit, but like when somebody does kind of remove sugar from their diet, what are they experiencing? Like, how does that go for them and what do they feel? Or
a lot of times people at first do feel a little low, just like, ugh, that's gone. And then they start feeling pretty good, I don't feel so up and down. I don't have the sugar rush with this big insulin splurge and, and diving back down, they feel more even. Eventually. And the other thing is, again, comparing it to the salt issue is when you start getting rid of that sugar, other food's going to taste better. So when you do have that pear or you have that orange, it's going to taste better because you've gotten all that desire for sweet away from you. So it's going to start... Other food's just going to be more flavorful. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like find that gap that's being left.
Right. Yeah. Because before it was probably like, that's not sweet enough. I like things really sweet. And then as you go along, it gets less.
It sounds so exciting.
Yeah.
You like to discover food again.
Yeah, it is, and you can even... compare it to somebody who quit smoking. A lot of smokers will say, wow, food tastes so much better because their taste buds are improving.
And like a year or two into their quitting, they like will smell a cigarette and they're just like, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, depending on the person. Yeah, right. So your taste buds do adjust. So it's always thinking that this isn't permanent, because human beings are incredibly adaptable. So your taste buds will adapt.
And I'm going to guess from our other podcast, you're not going to say like everybody should eliminate all sugar from their diet. I mean, that's not, I don't think that's not your approach.
No, I mean, it could be, for some people, it's going to be like, okay, I just want to have it when there's a party. I'm still going to have the treats that are there, or like when the holidays hit, I'm not going to worry about it at the holidays. It's, a temporary thing, it could be that, or it can be just like, I'm just going to have that I want a little treat every day. Mm-hmm. I've got some patients who get like the ice cream bars because it's a real finite portion, and they just want an ice cream bar each day.
I was going to say, like, is there anything better than an ice cream cone on a hot summer day?
Right. So, but also, let's say you go like Dairy Queen or something, they have the really large and then they have the minis, so it's like, so it's nobody's saying you can't ever have it, but think about it. You can just have the mini, that's an option.
And after you've weaned yourself away from it, maybe you don't need that full on bam.
Right. And also enjoying it and savoring it and eating it more slowly. Mm-hmm. Just really, not rushing through it so you can enjoy it.
And you've kind of talked on this, like the fruit, but are there other foods that maybe people could eat to kind of like cut down on that sugar craving?
Adding things like vanilla flavoring or almond flavoring can give you kind of a little bit of that, make it more interesting. Nuts or something else, cinnamon, doing... I think of like cinnamon and ginger as like our flavors we associate with sweet.
I'm thinking curry.
Right.
Or, like just something else to like kind of like.
Right. Because, we often get really used to salt and sugar and pepper being our flavorings. Mm-hmm. And so looking at adding other flavors to make your food interesting.
Yeah. And what about like artificial sweeteners? How does that fit into this?
Oh, they're all over the place.
I don't like. So what is an example of
okay, so like you've got if we look at Splenda, that's sucralose, that's the yellow packet. Mm-hmm. And then we've got saccharin.
Like a NutraSweet, is that?
NutraSweet would be aspartame.
Okay.
And that's the blue packet.
Okay.
Saccharin is the pink packet. Mm-hmm. And stevia, which actually comes from a plant, is the green packet. Mm-hmm. So that's how I'm always telling people, you got pink and you got...
yeah. Well, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. Because we got those different colors. So definitely saccharin and aspartame and Splenda or sucralose, they're manufactured, they're made up, they're coming from a chemical and all this stuff. Stevia is from a plant. So that tends, if somebody's asking me about like what's the most natural, I'd say, well, like stevia. Now there's one made with monk fruit. There's new ones coming out all the time that you might want to look at. So some of the problems with any kind of like, what we call artificial, quote unquote, artificial sweeteners is they can still be what we call biologically addictive. Like they still have that sweetness and they can still get that dopamine going a little bit because your body doesn't necessarily differentiate that this isn't sugar. So it can still kind of cause the drive. Mm-hmm. And like anything, it's how much are you having? So, if I have somebody that's drinking a cup of coffee in the morning and they put a little bit of Splenda in, I'm not too worried about that. But if you're doing 7 diet sodas or, you're just really drinking a lot, it can still cause other cravings. And they're also finding some of these actually change how the bacteria in our gut.
Huh.
Yeah, but that's like like very beginning studies, so we want to be careful of what we say with that. But it also is like, what are you doing with amounts?
Sure.
And what's also kind of interesting is when you even drink a non-calorie drink, it's still your insulin kind of starts kicking in because you're just simply eating something or drinking something. So you still, like, your body is getting ready and it'll start increasing your insulin levels.
Mm-hmm. Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Uh-huh.
We're getting ready. She's consuming something. So let's get ready.
And so what about a diet soda? Is that still got
Again,
sugar
it's
in it?
like amounts, I'm not super concerned if somebody has like, I have a diet soda one every day, it's like, okay, it'd be nicer if you could do water or unsweetened tea or coffee, but, but there can be more negative effects when the amounts go way up.
Mm-hmm. So
it's all relative.
Like if I had a ginger ale every day, it's not like the worst thing, but if I had maybe 4.
Right.
It's like, as you were saying, it's the amount you're drinking.
It's the amount you're drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that can even be true with like regular sodas if you're, doing like they have the little mini cans, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, if your weight can handle one of those every day, is that so horrible? It's, so again, it's just how much are you doing of it?
Sure. And then have you seen, if someone is to just kind of like, they do drink a lot of soda and they stop that's got what does that do? Like, does it help with weight gain? Or?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. What are the side effects other than no longer having sugar in your body?
Right.
What are some other good things that happen?
You can see weight loss. I mean, I've seen people lose a lot of weight when they stop their soda because it's a significant amount of calories. 1 can of regular soda is about 150 calories in a can. So if we consume about an extra 100 calories each day for a year, we gain about 10 pounds. If just with everything else being equal. So when you can get rid of that soda, and also it's like sweet lemonade, sweetened teas, the list goes, on and on.
Energy drinks.
So yeah, we just happen to be kind of picking on soda, but any of those sugar-sweetened beverages.
Easy.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, I don't mean easy. I mean, it's something we all understand.
Right, right. But sugar-sweetened beverages in general, and that includes fruit punches, Sunny D, all those kind of things.
Well, I mean, even like you can going through the orange juice section, like there's some that have sugar in it.
Right, right. So that, when you do that, you could see weights go down. And when we're getting into the hard stuff, high sugar intake does affect the fats in your blood. And one in particular called triglycerides. Triglycerides tend to really increase with high sugar intake. So when you take that away, that's going to go down. And one thing we haven't touched upon, which I better so that I don't upset our dentists.
Yes. Oh, yes, right.
Is sugar intake. It's terrible for your teeth.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's awful on your teeth. And, and particularly when you're having all this sugary liquid, it's just surrounding your teeth. And if you can kind of think of that way, like it's attacking your teeth. Your
teeth are soaking in sugar.
They're soaking in sugar. Mm-hmm. And then if you're eating sugary things that are sticky.
Caramel,
gummy bears, just any of that's sticky. Or if you're putting hard candies in your mouth and you're sucking on them, you're bathing your teeth in sugar.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I don't think it's a bad way to think about that way because it, like you said, I don't want to do that to my teeth. And just, ask one of our dentists. They can probably spot a big soda drinker from across the room. It's really hard on your teeth.
So what someone who maybe had this sugar addiction, what's it gonna like to get away from it? Does it help their mood? I don't know if this is something you can answer. Or like,
I mean, there's even been some interesting studies done for people who are going through alcohol and drug recovery that they have more successful recovery when they don't do high sugar foods because it's keeping dopamine levels more even. It's making them feel more steady. It decreases cravings. And it's interesting because often when people are especially getting away from alcohol, they tend to go towards sugar. That's not unusual. But if you look at the actual studies out there, people are more successful when they don't. So,
well, it's just kind of, in a way, replacing one thing with another.
It is. I mean, yeah,
Kinda.
it is.
I mean,
it's that craving.
There's different. I don't want to say they're the same thing.
Yeah, right. They're not the same. But it is interesting that it can make cravings worse when you go towards the high sugar. Because it's like we think of, like, it's a cliche that you have donuts at the AA meeting, and so it's not unusual to associate those things with recovery, but the recovery is improved without it.
Well, what an opportunity. I mean, if you're, if you have a problem with addiction, like, it's kind of nice maybe like to find like other things to, like, if you're bettering this, why not better everything?
Right. And it's, and like anything.
If you can.
It's like all that one step at a time. Maybe at first you're going to do it because that's what gets you through. And then with time, it's like starting to make different or better food choices, so you get away from that. And, and that can be like, not at first, maybe you're not going to worry about it, but move on for long-term success. Mm-hmm. So, but it definitely contributes to it.
What else? You brought a whole stack of paper there.
I wanted to be prepared.
You want to touch on?
So one thing we haven't talked about is quote unquote natural sugars, which would be like, we can talk about honey and maple syrup, and maple syrup can be very sacred in our area.
It is, right?
Yeah. And, but it's still, they're sugars, so yeah, maybe you'll use a touch, and I'm not saying you can't have any and you shouldn't use it and, all that kind of stuff. But if you overdo it, you are getting sugar. Be aware that you're going to get a lot. Some advantages of, like, particularly honey and maple syrup is they have a very strong flavor. So you don't tend to need as much. So if you put like honey in your tea, it's a pretty strong, flavor to it. So
well, and maybe to use your example from before, if I put 17 teaspoons of maple syrup in my coffee, it's like, come on, it's like, right.
Yeah. So exactly. So, so if we let's say we use that recommendation of less than six teaspoons of sugar or less per day, well, maybe one of your teaspoons will be your honey, or it will be a little bit of maple syrup, or, maybe you make a soup with maple syrup in it, So it's not saying it's evil, but it's still sugar. It's
you don't get it. There's not.
It's not a free pass.
Yeah. Right, okay.
Well, and just looking historically, honey and maple syrup were precious, and they were
hard to come by.
And that's why they were such a treat.
So
you didn't use it like every day, and it was like, wow, this is a big treat.
A little went a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and same thing with sugar in general, that they're all that way, but yeah.
And I don't want to say I get fooled, but I wonder about, like, I see the package called sugar in the raw or raw sugar.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. I mean, it's all sugar.
It's like,
it might be manufactured differently,
but it's in a brown package.
It looks natural.
Well, it does. I'm like, I'll use this.
Yeah,
this
we're all sucked in. And there's, like, I never say this right, the turbino sugar. I think it's called turbino. So there's just all these different ones. It's sugar.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And like anything, sugar can be political. Is it, fair trade? Is it, there's all, you can go on and on and on. But if we're just looking at from a nutritional point of view, it's sugar, and it's going to affect you.
What else? I see you, like, looking through your sheets there. Anything else?
Well, we just, already kind of, talked about, the cravings and how it affects your health. And, and if it can be, the other thing is looking at that sugars, especially if we're looking at drinks, can be very connected to caffeine. So when I have patients that are saying, they really want to decrease their Mountain Dew habit or their Coke habit or whatever, we talk. I always look at them and I'm like, okay, this is also caffeine,
right?
Which is a legitimate withdrawal, and you're going to feel crappy, So we either have to. Then that's where you want to look at. Let's just decrease 1 can per day over, a long period of time, or what's going to be your other caffeine source. Are you a coffee drinker? Do you drink tea or whatever? But that's if somebody's getting really serious about it, they have to see the caffeine connection because they are not going to feel good.
Right. So take care of that.
Right.
Take care of one.
Yeah. Right.
And that's fun. Like, not funny, but I find that interesting that you would kind of like almost prescribe coffee I know my addictions.
Right.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah. Right. So I want people to be successful. So I don't want them to like just cut all this out. And then it's like, oh, I feel horrible. I'm getting migraines.
Which reminds me of our prior conversation where you said, you like to meet people where they are. And I think that is a wonderful example of that.
Right. Right. You definitely. And I have folks that have really cut back like on their soda and they're down to 1 and they're never going to give that one up. But at least they're not doing 6 anymore per day. And,
and then that's their thing,
Right.
It is like that little moment, like, it's not the worst.
Yeah. It's like I have some folks have their little ice cream bar at the end of the day.
Yeah. Mine's coffee. I love it. I just love it.
That's okay. You can like coffee.
Thank you. And how does, I got another just, like you talked about our dentist, how, like some of our family physicians here, how do you work with them, with people who are working with sugar?
It's not like specifically sugar. It'll be more like this patient's trying to lose weight or, they're trying to get their blood sugars under better control or, it's usually tied into something else. And then, I'll be talking to the person and it's finding out, oh yeah, you have a pretty big sugar intake. And how are we, I always kind of say to them, the biggest bang for your buck is going to be cutting back the sugar stuff, but ultimately it's the person's decision which direction they want to go in. I can tell them this is the low-hanging fruit. Is it something you're willing to work on? Yes.
And another thing, so let's say someone is addicted to sugar. They don't, do anything about it. You already kind of like heart disease and like how does that what about diabetes? I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but is that a big fear? Or?
Yeah. I mean, obviously if somebody has diabetes, I'm going to strongly encourage them, to cut back the sugar and try to figure out what we can do with that. And normally, that most people, they're willing to make different, one of the neat advantages of diabetes is if people are checking their blood sugars, they're getting feedback right away.
They know.
Yeah, they know. When I cut this out or change this or decrease my portions, my blood sugars go down. And most people feel better when their blood sugars are better. So that's what's kind of interesting with the checking blood sugars. There's that advantage. And some people just simply feel better. And they're, and they just, that's the benefit. I, again, talked to somebody this morning and she's made incredible changes. And I said, how do you feel? And she says, I feel so much better. And that's her reward.
Right. It's, like when you quit smoking, it's like, wow, I can walk up these stairs, no problem.
Right.
You're like, they're not the instant results.
Right.
You got to put a little time in and it's down the road.
Might be rough at first, but it's going to improve.
Sure. Well, Rebecca Crumb-Johnson, thank you so much for being here. doing this again.
You're welcome.
I do have one last question.
Oh, no. What is it?
What's in your car now?
What's in my car now?
What's changed in your car?
So a year ago, I talked to you, and I had my skis in my car, and I don't have my skis in my car right now because it's so icy.
It is.
I don't have very much in my car right now. Oh, I have my backup winter clothes that my husband always makes me put in.
Well, I know you travel a bit. You go to some of our different clinics.
Right.
So you're on the road a little bit. So
not that I'm criticizing him because it means, he cares. But I have my boots and my extra hat and mittens and my extra blanket is in there. So safety first. And I have extra windshield wiper fluid.
Ooh.
Going through a lot of that right now.
Yeah, good idea. Well, thanks again. It's really good to see you. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome, Jeremy. Good to see you.
It's always so good to talk to Rebecca Crumb-Johnson. If you are considering your sugar consumption and would like to look at the World Health Organization's recommendations, I'll put the link in today's show notes. NorthLakes Community Clinic is a community health center with locations throughout the northern part of Wisconsin. Our mission is to respond to the healthcare needs of our communities with an integrated array of quality services and actively remove barriers to wellness. I'm Jeremy Oswald, and I'm a marketing and communications specialist who knows how to turn the knobs. So I'm lucky enough to have these conversations with some of our great providers here at NorthLakes. Do me a favor, and as soon as the music is over, give the NorthLakes podcast a review. It helps other people find this information that I hope you find valuable. Thank you, and thanks for listening.